Hello, I am C3PO, and I believe the storyteller is ready. So let us begin.
This week, the story is about siblings. And it's the first time that you and I, we siblings, are going to be counting down kind of different themes from one another. Ross is going to outline his top 6 favorite Luke Skywalker moments in all of Star Wars, as I'm going to be counting down my top 6 favorite Princess / General Leia Organa moments. This is largely to prevent us from having overlap in our lists, which we've been doing a lot of. But it's not a guarantee, because a great Luke moment might very possibly also be a great Leia moment, and vice versa. Still, it's going to allow for a kind of news slant on us taking different perspectives as we talk about Star Wars. Ross, did you have a strategy in making your selections this week, a rubric that you tried to follow?
Yeah, I definitely did. It was a little less about like what was my fate. Like I wasn't trying to view this from just a purely personal lens. I was really trying to view this from a lens of my relationship to Luke Skywalker as a fan of Star Wars, but also Luke Skywalker's relationship to the rest of Star Wars and the impacts that that has on why I love Star Wars. And so it still does come from a very personal perspective, but at the same time, understanding the kind of the big picture, because Luke Skywalker is such a figurehead in Star Wars, that also was quite easy in a character like that, where you have such iconic moments. But at the same time, there are some things that are like my favorite moment in Star Wars that contains Luke Skywalker is not on my list.
Oh, okay. Because it's not a Luke-centric moment.
It's not, it is Luke-centric, but it is not so Luke-centric that that's why I love it. I love it for what it does for Star Wars and what it does for the hero's journey per se, and about learning about the Force and what it does to the galaxy. I'm referring to the moment of Luke hanging upside down in the Wampa Cave, for example. That does not make my top 6. It is my clear cut. I've said it before. It is in my top 2 favorite moments in Star Wars, but it does not directly pertain to my love for Luke Skywalker necessarily.
That's fascinating to me, because it to me, at least the way I viewed this assignment, and you and I always have some granular distinctions in how we approach the list making. That's fine, but like to me, that is exactly by definition a Luke moment, and thus it would absolutely make my top 6, because I agree it's one of the great moments, and he's alone in it, and he's heroic in it, and it's got all of these ingredients that you want. And so I'm kind of surprised to see, and curious to see what your list includes, if that's something that doesn't make the cut.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It was the way that I viewed it. And like that's a moment that I love, but at the same time, it's also, it's not one that, like I, for example, I've said before that I, in theory, in some way, think of that moment every day of my life. But at the same time, growing up, Luke Skywalker wasn't my favorite character.
Right.
But that still was my favorite moment growing up, because the only other ones that would maybe come into contention would have came along a little bit later. But when I would think of Luke Skywalker, I would think of other things. And so it was interesting the way that I made that distinction, but it was kind of the way I had to kind of view this assignment, to not treat everything with the same lens that I treat it with, or else you're only going to have a small list of parts of Star Wars that you appreciate, where there are so many more things. And there are the reasons as to why I will get into them. And maybe that will explain a little bit more as to why Luke, maybe being by himself, didn't allow for the character of Luke Skywalker, who is so much about legacy and impacting others, to necessarily be a moment that I chose to put in this list, but obviously not downplaying it.
Let me do what you're doing and try and illustrate my approach to this assignment by giving an example of something that I didn't include that other people might have. So like,
okay,
as somebody who's a movie fan, and in particular, an enthusiast of the dialogue of films and the language of filmmaking, I wanted to be careful to not confuse a moment for a character, a moment that's important to the character and my feelings towards this character, with the linguistics of this character. And where you're talking about Luke, but I'm going to be talking about Leia today.
Mm,
This is a very linguistic character, way more so than Luke. And
mm.
it'd be very easy to confuse a great Leia moment for a great Leia barb. And there are some cases where there's overlap, and you're going to see that on my list. But for example, a really iconic movie moment for all of cinema is the hologram, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope." And it is a great Leia moment, but actually it's a better Luke moment and a better Ben Kenobi moment. And so for those reasons, like when I think about that, and when we see the full transmission, I think of Luke saying, "Who is she? She's beautiful." And then she mentions the Clone Wars, and like I get really excited about what that does for blowing up Star Wars, but it's not really particular to Leia, and so something like that is excluded from my list.
Hey, I think we did view the task in a similar way, and maybe we'll understand a little bit more as we dive into it. But yeah, do you want to kind of kick things off with your number 6 Leia moment?
This is my 6th favorite Leia moment. It happens in Return of the Jedi on the forest moon of Endor when Leia meets Wicket the Ewok. She is found out, passed out in the woods. She wakes up. She's kind of prodded awake with his little spear, and she has this hysterically ordinary conversation with his infantile little alien teddy bear who's cute but also kind of hostile. And this is Carrie Fisher at her comedic finest and also at her truest Carrie Fisher self. Very easy to forget that this is like a New York comedienne, Carrie Fisher, in a fully realized sense at this point, and she's imbuing all this like sardonic, frankly, earthliness into Princess Leia at this point. And it's a completely ridiculous and fantastical scenario. In a way, she kind of can't be this good with Han or Luke, because with Han and Luke, she has to propel the plot and she has to stay more in character than she does with this little dude. Here she's allowed to be wry and also kind of maternal. Like Leia gives Wicket a piece of a cookie and then she hands him her helmet so that he can inspect it. And after this, they go from being kind of adversarial to immediately being allies, and they are protecting each other from an Imperial troop. And I sort of think this moment is Leia in a nutshell. And so that's why I chose it.
Oh, I think this is a really great choice. I think this is one that maybe people, I will be honest, if I had to do Leia, I think I would be disappointed in myself for not maybe thinking of this one or putting it as high. I think this is a wonderful moment. And I think for all the things you said, and like she even gives him a little hug to help him like to take him down. Like, and
it's so cute.
Yeah, I know. It's just, and it's a wonderful moment. And then it's the transition to like when he takes her to Bright Tree Village, and she like gets in her like different other dress, but it shows that like, yes, Leia has to be strong and commanding as a rebel leader with Han and Luke as well. But in this case with Wicket, she's showing another element of her political savviness and the fact that she's just someone who's able to get along with other people because she's empathetic. And that's the reason as to why she's the politician and the leader that she is because she just cares about other beings.
Absolutely. And there's something very cool about her here too. She just has this like real chill vibe.
Yeah, the poncho's awesome.
And the poncho does a lot for almost anybody in Star Wars. A lot of great ponchos in Star Wars. We could do a top 6 list of great ponchos in Star Wars. She's
Colin, you don't know this, but in Jedi Fallen Order, the Star Wars video game, you only get ponchos.
Nice.
So there's like, he has his standard, like there's 4 different like outfits you can have, which is like the underclothes. And then there's like 35 different ponchos that you can get. And fans give it so much shit because it's like, seriously, these are the only choices that we get, but there are so many ponchos. I loved it.
Yeah, I'm game with. I can see why that is maybe met with a little bit of resistance, but like you need a few ponchos at least.
You need a few ponchos, of course.
Great. So she looks great in the poncho. And so like obviously Carrie Fisher's amazing as like proper or quippy kind of I don't want to say hostile, but like combative Princess Leia through the rest of the show when she's interacting with the more conventional main characters. But here she's kind of just being Carrie Fisher. She's just being very like chill about everything, and that's what makes it very special to me. So how about we move into a Luke moment, your 6th favorite Luke Skywalker moment in Star Wars?
To be honest, I'm gonna go with one that you could say has recency bias, but I don't think it will age that way. I think it very much will age solidly in its spot. And I'm going to go with one X-Wing. Great, we're saved. And the entire sequence of Luke Skywalker returning, but not just Luke Skywalker returning as, and I mentioned this before, how it was one of the most, I think one of the most profound statements about The Last Jedi I've ever heard. It came from the Force Center podcast, and it was that Star Wars is always about growing up, but The Last Jedi is the first movie in Star Wars about growing old. And I think that is a deeply accurate and profound way of looking at that movie. And I think that people who hate that movie, watch it in that light. Maybe you'll like it a little bit more. And that's always a better thing if you can like something a little bit more. But interestingly, this is the Luke Skywalker that disappeared in 1983 and showed up in books for other people, but that wasn't really something that I experienced in the same way in the 90s. And even the people that experienced those books in the 90s didn't feel like they got what they wanted, because they never got episode 7 the way that they expected them to get episode 7 with a younger Luke Skywalker. And even George Lucas, his intentions would have been to do Mark Hamill in his 40s or in his like late 30s. It was not an intention for it to be this long after, but they found ways to make it work. But having him come back after all that time and be the same character, but be different and evolved and fit in with the new way of the galaxy and setting it off in the right direction. We had this beautiful full arc of Luke's life, but then you get this insert into the time in which he was kind of left off. And there was a lot for a lot of people wanted, but it was so powerful to have him come in, and you get the slow reveal with the fact that it's the X-Wing, it's the black, it's the hood, it's the lightsaber, it's green, it's the glove, it's the hilt, everything. And then you get the powerful Grogu Mando moment. But it's all in all, it broke the bloody internet. And I remember at 4:50 or 5 in the morning, whatever it was, when my mouth was on the floor and I couldn't believe what was going on. And Luke Skywalker saves the day, as he does in all of the legends of Luke Skywalker that we hear about, with Tamiri Blegg and those other kids playing with their little action figures at the end of The Last Jedi. I think it's excellent. I think it'll age so wonderfully.
I think it will too. And I think that's evidenced by like all the reaction videos you're seeing on YouTube and TikTok the last couple of weeks. Just folks like sharing not just their own reactions to this happening, but like, here's a video of my 50-year-old dad seeing Luke Skywalker come back for the first time. Or like, here's my girlfriend who's never watched Star Wars before, but we've been watching them and now she's into it, and she gets it. Like, it's just kind of this like unifying moment that frankly, I know we talked at length last week about how excellent a Luke Skywalker moment is, what happens on the Salt Planet when he dies, essentially. And that is one of the great Luke moments. But I think this is probably the most impactful Luke moment that Disney's created thus far, in that I'm always going to remember seeing it for the first time. It's that memory is not going to be obscured because it was really important and meaningful. And what's nice about it is that the Luke Skywalker of it all exists only in your heart when you watch it, because none of the other characters here know him. Like Cara Dune's like, who the hell is that? Like even Din is like, are you a Jedi? It doesn't matter at all who else is in the room. Yes, it's a beautiful scene, irrespective of Luke, but like it matters because you're the fan and this is Star Wars interacting with you. And so I think that's an excellent selection.
And R2-D2 is there, which is incredible. The fact that it's one of the strongest mirrors of Anakin, because this is the first time we've seen Luke as being a prime Jedi, whereas we have seen Anakin as a Jedi in his prime as well. And so to be able to kind of mirror those two off each other more provides a lot of great new insights into those characters and the relationships that they have in the original trilogy. So I think it's a fantastic moment. We've talked about it certainly a lot in recent, so we don't need to hang on it anymore, but definitely thought it deserved its place on this list.
My fifth favorite Leia moment is also kind of a Luke moment. Happens in Empire Strikes Back. Luke Skywalker's hanging from a Bespin weather vane. He's maimed, having been defeated by Vader, and Leia senses through the Force where he is and that he needs her help. An incredibly important moment because it doesn't only reveal that Leia has powers to the audience, and whether or not she knew that on any level previous to this, I guess we don't really know. It also further demonstrates her generalized heroism, and also it signals a really deep fundamental connection between her and Luke. And it can't be overlooked that he does kind of whisper some mournful cries of wanting a rescue from Obi-Wan, but then he very quickly switches to distress calls to Leia, and there's no real reason why he should do that. It's just in his fundamentals, in her fundamentals, that they are connected. And this moment makes very clear that Leia is the salvation the galaxy needs when all else fails, as it has done for Luke in this moment. And she's always going to do the right thing, no matter how heartbroken or preoccupied she might be in a moment. This happens immediately after she has told Han she loves him, for all she knows, for the last time before he's sealed in carbonite. We see later on in the sequel trilogy her fortitude to carry on and be a leader and be the hero the galaxy needs her to be, in spite of the extreme heartache she's experiencing from her personal life. And this is kind of the first example of her having these multi dimensions, but still showing up. And so it's a great Leia moment.
Oh, it's an excellent one. The fact that she knows to go back, and the fact that Han is gone, Luke is gone. She is in charge of Lando and Chewie and the droids.
Yeah.
And especially in 1980, that is another, like, that's a nice thing to see. And Leia never is the damsel in distress. She may be the one who needs you to open the door, but she's going to say, aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper? Right. And then into the garbage chute fly, boys. And so she always is going to be that strong person, but at the same time, this is a bit of a strength and also that softness as well that she shows to Wicket, because it's a compassionate moment connecting with her brother. It's also the first time she uses the Force. That's pretty bloody huge. Well, it's the first time we see, and it's the first time it's done. Canonically, it's not the first time she's done it in her life, but in that regard, it's such an incredible moment, and it also is the first seed planted on them being brother and sister.
What do you think about that Luke reaches out to her? He very quickly shifts off Obi-Wan and he just starts moaning, Leia, Leia. And is that just something he feels compelled to do in his kind of delirium, or is there some other reason why he might have done that?
No, I think that's it. I mean, it wasn't confirmed at this point that they were going to be siblings. I mean, they kiss in the movie, so. But it's just a further connection of Luke in that regard. It's just a furthering his ability to communicate across the galaxy. I think this moment has a lot more weight because of Return of the Jedi.
Totally. This is a weird thing that happens where they cut the camera right before you actually see Luke enter the Falcon, and it's Lando who kind of goes upstairs to open the chute and like, usher Luke in, and then they rob the audience of actually getting to see Luke enter the threshold of the Falcon. He just kind of lets go of the weather vane, and he's done a lot of falling at this point. And I don't know if he's able to like use the Force to keep himself from like smacking his head or whatever. But I always found it kind of clumsy the way he just like tumbles into this open spaceship in through like a tiny porthole.
I guarantee you, I was never a Robot Chicken person, but I guarantee you there was a Robot Chicken of Luke hitting the Falcon and bouncing off and just dying.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, your fifth favorite Luke Skywalker moment.
That was 1 in a million, kid. Let's blow this thing and go home. It is it's the first big epic moment of heroism. It is Luke Skywalker, the terrorist of the Empire and the hero of the galaxy, the hero of the rebellion. That lone X-wing, the recently deceased Red 5 that we see in Rogue One, and then Luke taking over the reins, and it's a pretty damn cool moment. This is Luke turning off the targeting computer. This is all the experienced pilots failing. This is him losing the only friend that we know that he has, the one that like, oh, Biggs went off to the academy, and we see the big embrace that they have. Han's already left off, although he comes back, and that's what makes the moment even more heroic. But it's a matter of it's Luke having no reason to trust his instincts other than the fact that he's been on this wild journey and that he feels this strong connection to old hermit Ben, and Ben is speaking to him. But is he speaking to him, or is Luke going crazy? It doesn't matter. Don't trust your eyes. They can deceive you. He turns off the targeting computer and makes the shot. And it's intense. Vader's gone flying. It's pulpy as hell.
It is.
The Death Star blows up, and it blows up in such an epic fashion. Cool guys don't look at explosions. And then we go to the incredible happy ending that occurs at the end of A New Hope. And that's, I think, a really also a very important thing for Star Wars, is the use of happy endings in A New Hope and Return of the Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. And I think that's another piece that's kind of started off with a success here, as Luke saves the day for the first, but certainly not the last time.
Is "don't trust your eyes, they can deceive you" something that Ben tells him aboard the Falcon when he's training him earlier in the movie?
Yeah, when he's doing when he's practicing with the probe droid, and then he has to put the thing on. I can't see a thing in this.
Something I'd love to know, which I'll never be able to know, is how people must have felt about that upon seeing this movie for the first time before there are any more Star Wars movies and before it's really clear what the Force is. Yes, we've had this nice little monologue about Obi-Wan telling Luke the Force is what gives a Jedi his power, yada, yada, yada. But there's not an innate cultural understanding of the Force. May the Force be with you doesn't exist to the zeitgeist at this time. And so I wonder, if you're watching this movie, which, as we know, was largely beloved immediately. I wonder if you're watching this and you're having to suspend disbelief as you see the hero close his eyes from the cockpit of this spaceship. Are you confused at all about how he summoned this magical power, which has not really been fleshed out? Or do you think you just kind of roll with it the way Luke rolls with it?
I think you roll with it the way Luke rolls with it. And that's, once again, one of the many instances, and I'll get to it again in a little bit here, about the audience is Luke. And that's so very important. And I think maybe that's another reason as to why I, as much as never giving up is, I guess, maybe the lesson, and concentrate and focus in your moment of desperation can maybe be the lesson in Luke hanging upside down in the Wampa cave. But it's not so much of you being the audience. You're never in that situation. And there's not really many situations you could even compare it to. It is like it explodes the galaxy in your imagination. But I guess this is another instance of the way that I viewed the task, whereas we, the audience, connecting so closely with Luke and being him in so many ways.
A lot gets made out of Luke not really shedding enough tears over Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, which is true. But you make a good point about Biggs, who we don't know how close they were, but like he was kind of his friend. Like he still saw him like just eviscerated from the sky. And Luke does not suffer a whole lot of grievances, does he, in Star Wars?
It's just kind of, he exhales.
Yeah. Well, he spends a little bit of time kind of grieving Obi-Wan only in that movie. He's like, I can't believe he's gone. He's the only person who actually he witnesses vanquished, and he actually feels some ongoing emotions over.
I have my 6 worst Luke Skywalker moments too.
Oh, I can't wait.
Okay.
All right. This is my 4th favorite Leia moment. It happens also in Return of the Jedi, when Leia disguises herself as a bounty hunter to infiltrate Jabba's palace and to rescue Han. This sequence is ultimately why I didn't choose the more obvious "I love you, I know" exchange for my list, which in itself I think is just a little bit more of a Han swagger moment.
Definitely.
This is kind of like Leia's version of that. It's her response and it's equally romantic, by the way. She appears having dressed up like the enemy, the same way he was dressed up like the enemy when he first met her, rescuing her for the first time. She announces herself as someone who loves you. It's deeply romantic. And it's also just really badass of her. Yeah. Carbonite stuff is actually, I think it's a little bit overlooked on this podcast. We don't discuss Carbonite that much.
Love Carbonite.
It's a fantastic resolution for this story. Carbonite was something that really fascinated me as a kid. And so maybe that's why I feel kind of drawn to this moment. She's just like really great movie making when she takes off the helmet and her hair flows out, and you're like, oh, it's beautiful, Leia, and she's a badass, and so that's why I like it.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful moment, and Han's blind in the moment, but the fact that Leia is, and like the last time we saw them, Han is being stoic and Han, but he's like, he's shaking and he's cold and he doesn't know what's going on, but it's
Eddie.
just like, yeah, someone who loves you, and like it doesn't matter, you're okay, and I'm here to keep you safe, which is so like Han being vulnerable is not what we're used to seeing, but Leia being a badass is something that we're very much used to. But this is one of absolutely my favorites. And always one of my favorite as a kid.
Me too. How long was he frozen?
I always love Bausch.
How long was he sealed in there?
I think it's a little under or about a year. About a year.
Wow, that's brutal. I wonder if she ever wavered at all in that year. Do you think she ever got any strange?
No, I'm going to assume she was thinking more and more, just like, the blonde one he feels a little too, like kissing my brother.
Yeah. Believe me, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, that's great. Who's Bosch? Is that who the helmet that she's stolen?
Yeah, Bausch. It's a newbie's bounty hunter. I think they did a comic that kind of explained the story where they kill him and take his armor.
That's cool. She's just so tiny when she shows up. She's got the thermal detonator.
So badass.
Yeah. Well, and she kind of gets to be Princess Leia without being Princess Leia for a good portion of it. She's in disguise, and this now, having seen it a million times, and
Chewie being in on it,
right, and 3PO not being in on it.
Never. Lando as well, and he does like that, pulling down the mask.
I like it.
I love the sequence.
I mean, yeah, we talked about that recently too, about how great Jabba's palace is in general, and also like a lot of Leia's great moments. This is not her fault, but I've got another one coming up shortly. Her great moments where she does the thing that she needed to do, and thank God she did. Immediately, some kind of hardship befalls them, and ultimately they're in the clutches of evil once again. Like, she quickly gets to like kiss him and like wipe the sweat from his brow, and then you hear next scene she's in the gold bikini, which I did not put on the list, but it is an iconic Leia thing.
No, I think of the sequence, this is absolutely like of those few kind of moments at the start of the movie, the one you put in, definitely.
Yeah, I think so.
But so, you're right, a return for Carbonite is necessary, and ultimately I still think was my most creative theory on how you can make Rey make sense.
She was frozen for this time.
I like when I was brainstorming, and I think that's one that you can use in a future Star Wars story to connect a lineage in a way that nobody's going to expect. I think that could be a cool twist.
Yeah. Number 4, are you on 4 now for Luke?
I am on 4, and this is a very important one. I couldn't put it any higher. I probably could have, but it was like I didn't in the end. But this is one of the ones that's the most essential for connecting with the audience and really putting yourself in the shoes of Luke Skywalker, and that would be the Twin Sun Horizon, and that is the moment that starts the hero's journey. Luke kind of looking off, knowing that he's not necessarily getting what he wants out of life, but we know what's about to come, and yet there's two suns, and it's something that's familiar but so very different. And we're all Luke Skywalker, but none of us are Luke Skywalker. And it's one of those things that it ends with a Luke, and it connects things in a way that Luke is just a kid, and very, very, very soon after, he's not going to be. His uncle and aunt are going to be burned, and he is going to find a mentor and lose that mentor, and find another mentor and lose that mentor. And like, it is going to be quite the journey, but it's the hero's journey, and it's what all of Star Wars is built on. And it's where we get the Force theme, and we get so many other beautiful moments that mirror this moment. It's one that stands out as one of the most iconic moments in all of Star Wars. But I think it's because so specifically we connect with Luke in that moment.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it emotionally. I just think, like, purely from a superficial standpoint, like, it's beautiful. It's the calendar, it's the desktop. Like, it's it's the best that Star Wars ever looks. And that's important because it's so early on in introducing this new character and this new franchise. And you're right about the twin suns too. It's not just this quirk about this planet. It's really illustrating the fact that you're not in Kansas anymore. And
Very much so. And he's
yeah,
Dorothy.
he is, but he's kind of from this other world. So like you said, we're never Luke. There is kind of a distinction where you are Dorothy more so than you are Luke.
True, but that's also, at this point, Luke doesn't know who he is either. Luke
True.
doesn't know that he is the son of Skywalker. He doesn't know that he is the heir to the Jedi. He doesn't realize that yet. And I think that's another incredible angle, that it's like, you don't even know the start of it, kid. This is about to go like up to 11.
It must have kind of killed you that you couldn't put this at number 1.
It did a bit, for sure.
Yeah.
Actually, no, not at number 1. There were a couple, like, there's one that I have above this that I just adore and love, and and to be honest, now that I think about it, part of me is wondering if I'm gonna justify it. Fine.
You're shuffling your lists mid.
No, I'm gonna justify fine. And another one is one that it makes a lot of sense. My number 1, I felt that was a very easy one for me, but we'll get to that. That one was very easy, and this one did sniff 2, 3, but it ended up at 4, but nothing sniffed 1.
Okay, this is my third favorite Princess Leia moment. Number 3 features all of the main heroes in the original movie except maybe Obi-Wan, but everybody else. Leia gets to be the one with the heroic solutions. To help them evade blaster fire, she grabs Luke's weapon, uses it to blow a hole in the grate on the Death Star, and she says, "Somebody has to save our skins." As you said it before, into the garbage chute, Flyboy. And if they haven't already made this point clear, all the stereotypes about, as you said, damsels in distress have been completely dismantled for Princess Leia, who is taking charge. She is handling the gun. She's assigning cheeky, condescending nicknames that are already irking Han very deeply. And then she gets them out. Now, obviously, this is not unlike when she rescues Han at Jabba's palace and then immediately things go wrong. The garbage chute scheme is ill-fated, but it's necessary all the same because it gets them from one thing to the next, from A to B. And I also think that this is kind of where she and Han and Luke become a trio for the first time.
I love the garbage chute scene. And you make a good point that is more, it's a lot Luke in the sense with the Dianoga, but like the monster. But Leia, she runs the scene. And she's the one that is like arguing back and forth with these two characters who she's just met. And it does, like, it kicks them off. It makes them the trio that we fall in love with. It's a great moment, and it's her wearing this like white sack of a gown as well, with the ridiculous buns in her hair as well. But she still manages to handle the gun pretty well.
And that's what I mean. In particular, when she like pulls the rifle out of Luke's hands and she just fires it, and somehow she knows it's the garbage chute. I don't care. And you know, it's
maybe she could smell it. It was right next to her cell.
And really, when you think about it, like, what a strange mechanic for this machine, that there's just like a grate that leads right down into the poop chute that like feeds out into the hallway. Like, no office building operates this way. It's very strange in terms of like architecture, isn't it?
It is. It's shaped like a moon.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. It's not so much the garbage chute itself, because obviously that's very iconic. But I kind of also think of that as, it's a lot of people. It's certainly Luke. It's 3PO in a big way, but it's the getting down there that I really like. It's her really deciding, okay, I know you rescued me, but I'm actually a little more adept at this than you clowns are. So give me your rifle. And that's what I like.
Yeah, you're right. The funniest part of the garbage chute is when 3PO is like, "Oh, you can hear the screams.
And they're
dying." 3PO. Oh, where could he be? No, you're right. But like the second Luke opens that door to when they get in the garbage chute, like Luke opens the door and then Leia runs the show. And so it's a pretty awesome moment.
Your turn for number 3, Luke moment.
My number 3 would be, it's a bit of a larger moment. That was the key justification, is the fact that it's coming back for a friend. It is Luke Skywalker returning for Han Solo. And so similarly to yours, it would be the one-handed completely unprepared Jedi wannabe to 1 year later, the black hooded robe who saunters into Jabba's palace, threatens him after calling him your exalted one and giving away 3PO and R2 and then killing a Rancor, and then icing on the cake, the true topper, the one that is the little kid in me part that I absolutely loved, is Luke being taken out on the sand skiff and then just giving Jabba one final opportunity and then having to kill everyone and doing it and doing exactly what a Jedi does. It is aggressive negotiations, and it is the birth of the Jedi as we know it, in the way that George Lucas wants these stoic samurais. It has hints of the dark that aren't what we want to see in our Jedis, but it is at the core Luke coming back to save a friend who came back to save his ass when he had to go for the Death Star, who came back and always was there to protect Leia. And it's Luke being a complete and utter badass, but at his core being a good friend.
So hang on a second. Are you talking specifically about when he walks in robed and has the confrontation with Jabba? Because you kind of just described the whole first act of Return of the Jedi.
I know, and I did it, but it is the act of Luke coming back for Han in the delusions of grandeur. It is the transformation that I'm talking about more than anything.
Okay.
And so you get to see someone who falls down the pit to the character who jumps into the pit, springs right back up, and grabs his brand new lightsaber from R2's head. And like, that is the coolest part of it all. That's my favorite. That's that was the one that just, oh my God, that's so cool as a kid. And when they repeat it in the Clone Wars, Colin, I think it was my biggest fist pump maybe I've ever seen in the Clone Wars, when Anakin and R2 repeat it. And it's so cool because Anakin does the salute to R2 as well. And that's, of course, the wonderful signal. But it's, and that was the reason as to why I was like, I wonder if like you'll like me playing around with my kind of the way I described these things. But yeah, it is the fact that it's Luke's transformation that he comes back, and because Return of the Jedi is such a weird act of the way it's a weird pacing in that regard. It was hard to kind of pick a key moment in there, but I guess the transformation is the way to sum it up.
In particular, I really liked just his shadow walking in, and it's quiet and everyone's like really quite nervous. I think that's exciting even now to watch it, know what's coming. And also, of course, you make a good point. Shooting the lightsaber out of R2's head kind of makes you wonder, like, if this has actually been used again, although previously in the timeline. It makes you wonder if like this is R2's move more so than the Jedi's move.
I never thought of that. Of course it's R2's idea. Oh, Colin, thank you. Oh, that's such a good way of putting it. I just assumed like, the Force and Luke had the same kind of idea as his dad. No. That is totally R2 giving the tip to Luke. Definitely 100%. And that makes them, that's cool. That makes the moment even better. But yeah, like the conversation with Jabba, I think I maybe didn't appreciate that as much as a kid. Like the words that Luke is choosing, the fact that he's constantly trying to give Jabba an out. He's trying to give everybody an out, but he's making it very clear that it's going to end very poorly for them if they don't take it.
Yeah.
And so that's what's just like the whole sequence of this is like, not who we left off, but at the same time he's still coming back for his friend.
You're right, because he's playing with the light and the dark here. He's not really talking in a way that, say, like Mace Windu would always approve of, but like he's here to get the job done, and that's pretty cool. All right, my second favorite Leia moment happens in A New Hope, the original Star Wars movie. Leia is captured by the Empire. She faces both Vader and Tarkin. So here I'm kind of using your logic, stretching it out to be a whole scene. She doesn't sweat it for a second, man. At this point, it's in the canon, I guess. There's other Leia storytelling about her being diplomatically experienced for someone so young. But this is the first time we really see Leia at all. And it's certainly the first time we see her in action for real. This teenage girl facing murderous authoritarian warlords like they're bitchy cheerleaders who need a talking to. She slips into an uncharacteristic British accent, which we've laughed about in the past. I don't care. It just kind of colors the scene and makes for interesting chatter about how movies are made. She also gets to say to Tarkin, "I recognized your foul stench when I was brought aboard," and then refers to Vader as his lapdog. It's one of the all-time great Star Wars character introductions. This is how we meet Leia, and it really sets a tone for how formidable she's going to be from here on.
Because it also, we have set a clear tone as to who Darth Vader is and a clear tone as to who Tarkin is.
Right.
And then you're setting this other tone with Leia once again. You're right. It further cements the fact that this 19-year-old is ballsy beyond belief. And then I assume when you say you were stretching out the entire scene, are you including also her diverting attention to Dantooine?
No,
and blowing up Alderaan as well, or no?
I hadn't really thought to consider Alderaan either. I really just mean I kind of want to choose two moments for this one installment on the list because they kind of are a pair. The introduction of Vader and Tarkin.
No, that's one moment. That's fair.
I think it is too. It also kind of makes you curious about like what other interactions she's had with these two in the past. Like, she's obviously very important to the galaxy, to the Galactic Republic, to Alderaan, but like it kind of seems like she's on a face-to-face first name basis with these two people. She has not necessarily been shielded from them socially speaking, and it makes you wonder, like, what have their other interactions been like?
She has had them with Tarkin. Tarkin was privy to Bail Organa, and he was on to him, onto what he was doing, and he had dinner at their house one time at the palace.
I want to see that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like the Leia Princess of Alderaan book is one of the best. It's one of my absolute favorites in the new canon. And it's like the taunting that goes on there. But like Tarkin is, he has some background with Leia. Vader, I don't think has, but Vader is known to someone like Leia because she is a princess and she's been part of like young diplomats programs. I forget what they're called them, but she partook in all that shit, so that she was very well versed in becoming a successor of the royal family of Alderaan, and that had a lot of Alderaan was a core world. That's what Tarkin means. We need a core world to make a very clear demonstration. We're going to blow up the like art capital of New York. Basically, or like in terms of like let's pick the art capital of the most well-known area of our galaxy, and then let's blow up the most peaceful one. Although they just so happen to have the rebel leader as their married to their queen, so that'll be convenient for us.
Right. Anyway, so you co-sign. Great moment.
Absolutely co-sign. Definitely.
Yeah. Your number two?
Number two, we definitely don't need to hang on this one too long. Highly recommend go back and listen to last week's podcast, but it's necessary to put on the list, and that would be Luke Skywalker projecting himself from the unknown regions all the way to Crate to save the remaining 30 plus people in the Resistance, to try one last effort to make Kylo maybe see his ways, but to apologize at least, and then to give them time to escape. Him projecting himself across the galaxy, realizing that it was the necessary thing to do, being able to do it in time, and also the psychological toll that likely took on Ben Solo, and how that probably contributed to him slightly coming back, and absolutely contributed to Rey's growth as a Jedi, and Yoda making it very clear to Luke that that was going to be a necessary thing for him to do. In the way is, how can he pass on what he's learned? In a way, it's being that sign of hope and encouraging Rey to continue being so, because he told her it's time for the Jedi to end. Well, what's the one way to tell her, I was wrong? I will not be the last Jedi. And that is exactly what he does. And he goes out there, faces the First Order with his laser sword, and takes them on one versus the whole damn order. And it's so badass, and it's just the most powerful thing we've ever seen done in the galaxy far, far away.
It's perfect, and I feel bad for folks who can't quite find it within themselves to connect with it. Hopefully they can over time. I encourage you to try if it's not been your easiest.
And
Go
no,
ahead.
sorry. No, I was just saying, yeah, because it's like it is a great moment, and it's not one that's like it's like, oh, I feel bad for you. It's more of like it's just like, oh, it's a shame because it does connect with so many people, and it's a shame that this movie is divisive, and I understand why it's divisive because I have a lot of problems with a lot of the stuff that it isn't the core part of this movie, and that's kind of what's frustrating about this movie. Is this movie could be you just trim it up a few places here, but these major core themes are really powerful. And in particular, Luke Skywalker and the relationships that Luke Skywalker has in this movie, I think are just done perfectly, start to finish. And the way that they use the Rashomon effect in this movie, that's what it's called, right? I think that's what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know exactly.
But it's just it's really it's the beautiful way to, because I mean, if you just watch the first 3/4 of the movie, you're gonna be like, well, fuck you, Luke. But that's not the whole movie. That the last quarter matters. It matters immensely, and so that's why it works so beautifully and was such an important one to put on the list.
I also love Kylo in this scene. He's just
so angry and confused,
so broken, and he's just like, yeah, he's so over it. And you're right, perfect scene. Let's not belabor it too much.
He's also I watched it again. He's also so pale.
Yeah,
he looks his worst too. He looks sick almost. Which I mean, he's at
evil
his
ages you. I think evil just makes you look worse in Star Wars and in real life too, I think.
Yeah, and just another example of just like it being pulling off the subtleties really well.
That's right. So before I get to my my favorite one, I figure I might as well rattle off a couple of honorable mentions now.
Yeah.
Definitely, aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper? I mean, this is a great. It's kind of what I described leading into this. I didn't want to pick it because on its own, it's some of the best dialogue she ever delivers. It's one of the best lines in all of Star Wars, but it doesn't ultimately give you a whole lot of new Leia. It's kind of just like, it's perfect for her character, but it doesn't necessarily advance the character a whole lot.
I think you already picked it though. You're going like too narrow to like say if you don't get that and her blowing out the garbage chute. I mean, that's only like 15 seconds apart.
You're right. They're kind of connected, and it's the same attitude. There's no question.
It is for sure.
Strangling of Jabba the Hutt, which I mentioned last week, like that's a great thing that she does. That follows a few other things that we've discussed. Honestly, her reveal in Rogue One, I know it's considered imperfect, but when in discussing Luke turning up in Mando recently, I had said that I'll always remember that, and I will remember seeing Leia in Rogue One. Because it just didn't occur to me, even seeing Tarkin in this movie up to that point, it didn't occur to me that we could do that with Carrie Fisher, even if it's imperfect and they can, tweak it over time. But like,
I hope
that is an amazing thing that they did. And it's exciting. And you're just so jazzed in that moment of the movie in particular. Similarly, post-acquisition, Carrie Fisher's return, her first reveal in The Force Awakens. Like, she's, however you may feel about Leia in the sequel trilogy, kind of got dealt a bit of a crummy hand. But there's a sweet reunion between her and Han, and it's nice. Leia Poppins, it's not my favorite execution, but I don't hate it quite the same as other people do. And,
yeah, I'm not a huge fan.
And Help Me Obi-Wan Kenobi, You're My Only Hope. It's I like the full speech, not just the snippet. Like I said, I think it belongs to more than just Leia, but like she's prominent there. It's important for her.
Certainly.
So my favorite Leia moment will be no surprise to anybody who's listened to this podcast before, because I've ranked it high before. Empire Strikes Back. Leia is nastily sparring with Han at Echo Base on Hoth. In particular, after Luke's rescue, I think it gets even better. Obviously, Empire Strikes Back is a more proficient movie than A New Hope, which everybody agrees on. This is the first clear example of that, I think. Lawrence Kasdan is writing this wonderfully hostile, combative exchange between two soon-to-be lovers, giving each of them more personality than the other can really handle in another person. This is where Leia creates perhaps the greatest movie insult ever. Why, you stuck up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder, and then she lays a wet one on Luke just to make Han look jealous. I think this is as good as the best of all theater, and it's when Leia is at her very best self in all of the movies in which she appears.
Yeah, this is an awesome moment. And to be honest, Colin, I can't encourage the radio productions enough to get more Hoth. I mean, like they give you an extra hour, 80 minutes, maybe hour and a half of Hoth. It's really cool to see kind of that beefed up a little bit, but it's because it's this incredible transition from this incredible first story, and oh wow, Leia has continued to rise up the ranks. Her planet got blown up, but rescuing the princess, now she is the military leader, and she is bossing people around, and she is telling people what to do. But Han is still there, but Han is kind of trying to leave, and it's this insane back and forth. It's of course, when you have back and forth, you get tension, and it's a phenomenal scene. And the dialogue in 3PO is the most necessary third wheel, and Luke is a necessary diversion or piece to make Han jealous. But and then of course
he puts his hands behind his back, but really he is a third wheel because he's being exploited there by Leia.
Oh yes,
just doing it to get under Han's skin. There's a real sexiness to this scene, and it's much more adult too. Like, yeah, it's still playful and a family movie, but like, this isn't just the circus. Like, now we're actually going to put on a really good piece of drama for you, and these characters are actually going to care about each other in a way that's not at all superficial. And I'm not saying that we should romanticize dysfunctional relationships, but they can be fun to witness when the characters are both lovable, and this is that.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you, Lee Brackett and Lawrence Kasdan, for this bit right here, because this is the kind of thing that you're never getting from George Lucas. And it's as much as I absolutely adore him, there is a wonderful blend when you can have other cooks in the kitchen. And this is an example where you get a really fleshed out character, and one that maybe Leia was strong on the page for George Lucas, and he certainly proved it in A New Hope. So there's no downside in that. But like, she gains so much strength in this movie because of the way that she. Although Han does do a good job of toying with her about it.
Who's scruffy looking?
Yeah, exactly. But the way that she does do her damnedest and does succeed in doing so, of putting everybody else first.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, you have the floor.
Yeah, and so I'll do a couple quick honorable mentions. Actually, no, you know what? I won't do the honorable mentions first. I'll go right to the moment, the number one. Mention those ones after, as well as my bottom. Actually, no, I'll mention my bottom six first. Let's go to the bottom six Luke Skywalker moments.
Worst Luke moments. Go.
Worst Luke moment, number 6. But I was going to go to Tashi Station and get some power converters. I mean, the most whiny he's ever been. And I'm sorry, Tashi Station will be there in the morning. You can go there after you finish your chores.
Mark Hamill tweeted he was at a gas station that was actually called Tashi Station. And he's like,
that was awesome.
Better late than never.
The wonderful Twitter. And also, speaking of the wonderful Twitter of Mark Hamill, and also my number 6 moment on here, a beautiful thank you exchange between Peyton Reed and Mark Hamill, thanking each other for making lifelong dreams come true, because they did it for both of each other, which is wonderful. Number 5, the lightsaber over the shoulder to start off The Last Jedi. I adore parts of The Last Jedi. This isn't one of them. As much as I get the approach behind it and the sentiment and the thought process, that's not the way to treat a Jedi's weapon, even if you're Luke Skywalker.
Agreed. It's very that moment.
It's also, and it's also the first thing you're going to say is, how did you find this and who are you? You're not just going to throw it over and walk away. I don't care, even if you are Luke Skywalker. That actually is a more likely Luke response.
It's a cheap sight gag. It's like, and it feels very Disney. Like it's what Raven would do if she was handed a lightsaber she didn't want, not Luke Skywalker.
It's a weird comparison, but sure.
Very strongly with that.
Okay. Number 4, the length of his hair as a Force ghost. CGI it shorter, make him cut his hair, film it at a different time. It is so long.
These aren't moments. These are nitpicks about the design of the film.
Okay, those are 2 different movies. But those, yes, they're on my bottom 6.
Okay.
Number four. Number three. Being more upset about Ben's death than about Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. That one is a bit of a doesn't really line up fully. He should have been a little bit more upset. Even
They had
though
to get
he
the
was,
movie going. They had to get the plot rolling.
I agree. Him considering murdering his nephew.
Sure,
Number
that
two.
sucks. That's my biggest issue with The Last Jedi, frankly. If you find a better way to do that, to tell that backstory, I don't think I have any problems with The Last Jedi. I mean, other than Casino, but like, I think the Luke story's fine, other than that weird and like uncharacteristic move.
It is uncharacteristic, but at the same time, I do think of it as, and I get the angle. Anakin Skywalker goes in with a blade, intending to light it, and he slaughters younglings. Luke goes to read his nephew's thoughts, and then while reading his thoughts, realizes he's got an ignited lightsaber in his hand, and is like, "Oh my god, what the fuck am I doing?" But of course doesn't catch himself in time. And that's where you see like the third one. And that's the way I really interpret that moment, as him not even realizing what he's doing, and it kind of blending back and showing the fact that as much as Luke is so strong, Skywalker blood is dangerous.
You might be right, but
too.
I don't think that's how everybody reads that. I think it looked like an assassination attempt.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I put it on my list, because there is the subtleties could have been altered a little bit, although I do think it's a good job he does of Kylo's telling of it, where Luke looks like an absolute maniac.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, clearly that was not how it happened. That is his version of it. And my least favorite one would be the clear and present sexual interest he has in his sister for the first two movies.
He didn't know. George didn't know. Honestly, if you didn't know that Carrie Fisher was your sister too, you'd probably be sweet on her for a while.
Exactly. It's not one that we can blame. But let's go to, in my opinion, the clear cut, not even close, the best, the most Luke Skywalker moment there is, one of the most Star Wars-y moments there is. I am a Jedi like my father before me, throwing the lightsaber to the side, and I will never join you. I will never turn to the dark side. And it is the most Jedi thing ever. It is making the hardest decision. It is making a decision that doesn't seem like, is it even a decision? It seems like, is it giving up? But no, it's making the right decision, the hardest decision, the decision that ultimately turns Anakin back, the one that reverses the fate of the entire galaxy. And by throwing his lightsaber away physically, just tossing it, like not even just turning it off, but showing that I'll never turn. I'm not even gonna, I don't even hold on to it. Just electrocute me if you're gonna do it. We know you're more powerful than me here. But that's not the point of the scene. That's not the point of Star Wars. And this is the reason as to why George Lucas goes back and makes the prequels, because Darth Vader is a pathetic character, and Luke Skywalker is a hero for throwing away the lightsaber, not for taking the lightsaber up and killing a bunch of people, even if they are baddies. And Darth Vader isn't a badass because he's cool and a badass. He's pathetic because he takes so long to go and help his son, but is redeemed because of that. And that's why we love him, not because he's cool and evil. And that's why this is such an essential moment for the family elements of Star Wars, for the hero's journey, for the flap opening up and showing the white. It is Luke Skywalker to a T. It is hard choices. It is you being Luke Skywalker, but at the same time, it is you wishing you could be Luke Skywalker, because if you're at your hardest point, if you can do what he did, then you're the hero in your story as well. And that's why this is the perfect capper, and ultimately the one that made it really hard for me to enjoy Rise of Skywalker, because I couldn't get the comparison. And that's partly because JJ threw a bunch of opportunities for comparison in our face. But ultimately, this is the perfect ending to the hero's journey.
You make a great point about how this scene interacts with the eventual prequels that are made, and in particular with Anakin, because we do need some kind of reason to believe, some kind of backstory that explains why compassion and love are what it takes to turn this person back. You need to understand. And I know they do show us, an empathetic and loving side of Anakin in his final moments here, but we haven't seen that elsewhere. So we do kind of need to see the origins of that and to see like who taught him what love is or what compassion is. And so it's nice that George did that kind of retroactively. I haven't thought about it through the lens of Luke before, and that's nice.
Well, one other way to even cement it a little bit further is how similar the decision for Anakin is between Palpatine being electrocuted by his own lightning deflecting off of Mace's saber to Luke being directly electrocuted by Palpatine. A clear distinction. Palpatine is the evil in both of these scenarios. Anakin has a choice in both of these scenarios. He makes the wrong one, and then he makes the right one. And that's why it's about those decision moments and ultimately the main point of the whole trilogy there. And so it's just such a beautiful moment. It is the epitome of Star Wars. It is the reason as to why anyone who doesn't like Return of the Jedi is wrong. It is
and it is about throwing away the lightsaber too. It's about throwing away the lightsaber. It's not about fighting you. It's about not fighting you.
So and it's the active choice, not even the fact that just like I can't beat you because I'm not as powerful. It's the active choice that I'm not even going to try, and that is the best way to beat you, and it is what ultimately beats him. So
is that it? Do you want to move on to the news, or do you have anything else?
A couple honorable mentions. Him teaching Rey about the balance of the Force on Octo. That's an awesome moment. The final attempt to turn Vader before the meeting with Palpatine, the conversation that they have before the elevator. And Vader takes his lightsaber. I see you've constructed your own lightsaber. Your training is almost complete. And that's a really powerful scene as well. You can kind of extend the whole ones, but that scene is so essential to my number one moment. Like you kind of can't have one without the other because
it's so proper that moment. It is ceremonial.
But at the same time, it shows that then my father is dead. And so he leaves that and he takes him up to what we assume is going to be the end, or where Luke has to fight for dear life. And he does fight for dear life with savagery. But then realizes that, this is what happened to Dad. I'm not going to go this route after he cuts the mechanical hand right off and looks at his own. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, finding out that he is the son of Darth Vader and then choosing to fall as opposed to joining Darth Vader. But I felt that was such an essential moment of more Darth Vader, and so intrinsically both of them that it wasn't just a moment that I felt was could classify Luke on his own as a Luke moment. And even the fact that Luke kind of chooses to not deal with his problems there.
A little bit. He does a little bit of that through a lot of the series, in fact.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the point of The Last Jedi until the end. Yeah. But that's why I had the end of The Last Jedi as my number 2 moment. So, and there's also, another moment I think I mentioned before on how in the Battlefront video game, Luke saves a guy and he's an Imperial and he says, "Why did you save me? And you killed all those stormtroopers because they didn't give me a choice. And because you asked." And it's just such a powerful moment of, damn, well, that's a Jedi.
And also the Dread Pirate Roberts, for what it's worth.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It was the please that intrigued me.
In the news, a little bit of good news here. We don't know a whole lot, but Tom Kane, an update. He's doing a little bit better. His rehab apparently is going well. And so that's just encouraging to hear. That's just really nice to see. And there was a picture posted and he was smiling and he was holding a cup of coffee. And so that's nice to see. And hopefully that continues to go in the right direction.
Clone Wars voice actor who just had a stroke.
Yes. Yeah. Interestingly, it's been cool. There's been lots of deep fakes going around the internet. The Millie Bobby Brown and Sebastian Stan ones have been going around a lot. They both look incredible.
Hers looks really good. I never really saw the resemblance until now.
Oh yeah, it's pretty great. But the age ranges don't work in that way. But you can get away if you're ever going to tell another Leia story and you want to. I mean, it's kind of a slam dunk, but you kind of have to do it now before she gets any older, or else she's going to be too in line with the Leia age. And then the Sebastian Stan, it definitely does work, but it'll be intriguing. I still want Luke to come back as animation so that Mark Hamill can be the Luke Skywalker again.
Yeah.
Lucasfilm Games. So this was kind of announced right after, or maybe we did talk about it briefly, that Lucasfilm Games would be a thing, but that there will indeed be an Ubisoft open world video game made by the same studio that did The Division. There's heavy rumor that it's likely going to take a lot of the conceptual approach to Star Wars 1313, which is a bounty hunter game, and like similar to Mando in the sense that you build up your armor over time. And so Mando has so many video game like elements that they're going to use a lot of that inspiration, and they would be kind of stupid not to. So there's a decent chance you will be a Mandalorian bounty hunter, which is, will that be Boba? Will that be Din? Will that be somebody else? Who knows? They're not supposed to be bounty hunters, all of them. To be honest, actually, if you gave me my druthers, I'll take another Jango Fett game, actually. Give me Jango. Let's go back. That'd be a way better choice because the galaxy would be a little bit bigger and more Jedi to go up against. But
I really hope they whole ass this, because I think if it's
Big
done
time.
well, people will be so happy, and they can print money from it. It's not just about that, but like it would make people so happy, and that should be the main goal.
yeah, I hope it's got a couple planets. I think Jedi Fallen Order was okay, but it definitely lacked some open worldness, and the map layouts were incredibly confusing and not open world concept at all. Star Wars Galaxies was a game way back in the day. I never played it, but conceptually it was what you would want. If you merge Star Wars Galaxies, the concept of that updated in today's world would be like Grand Theft Auto Star Wars sort of concept. And so that's what you want, to be able to go on these little kind of side quests and missions to build up your character, but also to explore the galaxy and build a ship and do fun things like that and really get immersed. And also there really is a good opportunity to go to different time periods with these video games as well. I mean, you don't need to be as constrained. You can get a little bit more flexible because video games, you can get some choices. So very excited. There's still going to be Fallen Order 2 and Battlefront 3 likely. So EA is still making games, but this just means that there's going to be a lot of games as opposed to barely any. And that's exciting.
Great news.
Yes. I mean, in the 2000s, Star Wars video games were friggin' everywhere. And now they're impossible. They're just not really a thing except for friggin' like N64 ones that they reintroduced. But
Well, and I was going to say that maybe there were too many, but actually when I was a kid, I played nary a Star Wars game that wasn't at least kind of awesome.
yeah, they always were kind of awesome. And we didn't play as many as we probably should have. I've never, and I don't think you were either, but like the big into the flight angles of things. But an open world game like this is always what I've wanted. And I've always felt that Assassin's Creed was the best model. Assassin's Creed Black Flag was a pirate game. And so you have an ocean with islands. And so I felt like this is like conceptually that is a really good base for how you can build a space galaxy with ships. And like these were vast oceans that you would travel between islands, because you don't need to animate that much. Although you could dive deep into some parts of those oceans and like hunt for treasure and like fish. And so like there's so much you can do with that it just seems inevitable. And so that's Ubisoft as well, and very exciting.
And so this is going to be like a big sandbox. That would be
big open world. And Ubisoft works at a really good pace. Like Assassin's Creed games, they are able to introduce them like every year or every 2 years. And like if you can start churning out games at that rate of that quality, I mean, Jesus, that's going to be a license to print money. Yeah. And if they make money, then we get more of them, and that's great. That's what we want.
Do it. Okay, what else?
In the film world, Patty Jenkins has mentioned before, but still no word as to who it is, that she wants the Rogue Squadron writer to get their kind of their own day in the sun. So it's a he that was mentioned. No idea who it is, but it's potentially somebody that's known. So that's interesting. But Kevin Feige, we did learn about the Loki creator and writer doing the first draft of his script at least. But
Right.
Kevin Feige also mentioned that his involvement with Star Wars is one and done with this movie, which is kind of weird and makes me think that he got it as, in my contract, I also want to do a Star Wars.
Yeah, probably. And it doesn't mean that it will be definitive. Like, it can have a sequel. He just won't work on it.
Yeah, and I'm game with that. I don't want them to do that. I want to make sure that that's not a thing. I mean, Feige is somebody you can give that to because of what he's accomplished, but don't make Star Wars a reward for people that you want to keep within your grouping. It's done with this guy, the guy who's writing the Feige one. It was part of like a new contract and a package. But then again, he was also trusted to write Loki and create Loki, and so that makes sense. It's not weird at all. Same with Feige, but don't make Star Wars a reward. That's the best way to get crap. Do what you do with Patty Jenkins.
Don't make it a bargaining chip. Like,
exactly. Patty Jenkins has like a clear love for this story that we don't even know what it is yet, but we already know that we're going to be invested in it because of the investment that she already has. And so that's exciting.
Bingo.
Some more wonderful looks behind the scenes. I don't think we really talked much about Disney Gallery Season 2 for The Mandalorian. It's only one episode, but it was awesome. The main takeaways are that Tamora Morrison is wonderful, absolutely wonderful, and is a total goof behind the scenes. No surprise there, but very, very, very goofy behind the scenes. Gina Carano seems like an absolute tool on social media and is a buffoon. But her castmates do seem to like her and support her, and so that's good. So, I mean, it's weird that somebody can, on paper, seem like be a good person, but at the same time have beliefs that disalign with that. And so
it's not that weird. It's the story.
I know, but it's
America.
I know it's so strange. But she continues to like double and triple down, even with like supporting the bloody protests. I mean, like the Capitol riots. Like there was some I shouldn't say support them, but she liked some things on Twitter. Like she's too stupid to realize the fact that people can check what you like. And so it's pretty clear when you...
Yeah, I'm surprised that they're not like keeping a better watch on that, but it's none of my business, I guess. I don't care.
No. Rosario Dawson is just a professional. She's just an absolute professional. And it was just so clear behind the scenes. And that's exactly why she was cast. And as much as Ashley Eckstein did an incredible job and was a professional as the voice of Ahsoka, potentially leading this amalgamation of shows that will come together for an event series and have her own series. Having someone who's a pro like Rosario Dawson lead the show is necessary. And she was commanding on set. She was having a fucking blast. She was just goofing around with everybody. George Lucas, Grogu, Dave Filoni. So yeah. And she seems like she's really taking this seriously, which is awesome. Bryce Dallas Howard seems like a cast favorite, seems like a wonderful mom, and just everybody feels just warm and happy around her. Everybody was just smiles. There was not a single person that wasn't just smiles and didn't speak about like, Bryce is just so wonderful. And she just seems awesome. I feel like the tones that I've seen, I think she could be really good to do some directing alongside Dave Filoni for Ahsoka. And she's easily going to be continuing to get projects because of how well she worked there. And same with Peyton Reed.
She likes doing it, and so does Peyton Reed. And so
I think he's even been mentioned for doing some future episodes of Mando, maybe for Mando season 3. But his behind the scenes approach, he was very, very smart. There are just certain people that when you hear them talk about Star Wars, you're like, you get it. And he was one of those people, and so that was really nice to see.
Nice.
Liam Neeson doing a real bad job making it look like he's not in the Obi-Wan series. Literally like, oh, they're doing an Obi-Wan series. Oh, they're doing an Obi-Wan series. I'm not sure about that. I'll have to look into it. I'll see if they need me. But it's oh my God. Yeah. He's acts like he's never heard of it. So he's already been cast as is pretty much guaranteed. He probably already sent in his phone lines. He just has to, but that's going to be cool to see Qui-Gon again. I hope that Obi-Wan is able to find a way. I don't know how they'll do it. They could just find a way to just make him visible and explain it in some other medium. Doesn't really matter, but If Obi-Wan goes off world, it would make plenty of sense. I think that there's a lot of based on the working title Pilgrim. I think there's a lot of potential for this to be about Obi-Wan going on his Force journey to learn how to become a Force ghost. Yoda goes on one of them in the Clone Wars. It's an incredible arc. So I think there'll be a little bit of that for Obi-Wan in this, and that would then, of course, lead to him learning more from Qui-Gon. So that would make tons of sense.
Great. Really excited. I had mentioned to you that I saw Liam Neeson on James Corden last week, and they do this segment on the Late Late Show called Late Late Show and Tell. When guests are at home, they just like show a cool thing in their house. And he showed his Qui-Gon Jinn lightsaber, which is now like mounted on a placard.
I saw.
He was like really giddy about it. And like, honestly, James Corden is not rude about it, but he clearly does not care. He's maybe just not a Star Wars fan. He's kind of like, he's awing a little bit, but not with any specifics. He clearly doesn't have any curiosities about that's the real lightsaber. And whereas I would be like, I'd be giggling.
The coolest part about it was the fact that like not only like they made the plaque back when the movie was still called The Beginning.
Yeah, I know. I found that interesting too.
Yeah, it was called The Beginning for a while at least on the script.
Dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, Phantom Menace, such a good title.
Yeah.
Also, not confirmed, but heavy rumors that my dream is coming true and that Lars Mikkelsen, the voice of Thrawn, will be the face of Thrawn in live action as well.
You were on this more than a year ago. Ages ago, you were on this.
It just makes too much sense. Oh, I also looked into it because I've mentioned before how other Mandalorians have been cast in like Rebels and Clone Wars and are fitting for who they would be if they live actioned them. Who's the guy who's in The Crown? Toby something?
Tobias Menzies.
Tobias Menzies was in Rebels.
Oh, no way. Yeah, he's an astonishing actor.
Yeah, so there is a Mandalorian who was portrayed by Tobias Menzies, who, if you need to live action him, would be played by Tobias Menzies.
You totally could. Like he's actually very Star Warsy. I hadn't thought about it before. Like he's very one of those like classically trained British actors, and he's handsome, but like, yeah, I'm totally for Tobias Menzies in Star Wars. He is a breathtaking actor.
Yeah, and I just double checked to make sure, and yeah, it is indeed him, and he is indeed cast to look similarly to the way he would look as well, and so they certainly nailed that aspect of things. And I continue to read Light of the Jedi. It's at the top of the New York Times bestsellers, and it's awesome. It's just really good. I'm going a little bit slower than I want probably through it. I'm probably the third through it, but it's really great. I'd say the coolest part so far has been the way the different Jedi view the Force. And so like it's described, one of them experiences and the Force like a song when they go into like a pure meditative state. It's like chiming and musical, whereas one of them views it as like a dance with wind, one of them views it as a dance with fire, and one of them views, and it's like it's all about like different, like one of them views it as a surf, and one of them views it as being a leaf on the greatest tree of like Biryaga, who is a Wookiee. He views himself as a tiny leaf on the most mighty tree of all time. And the most mighty tree of all time is the Force, with its roots that plant deep into the earth of the galaxy, that connect all things and all living beings. And so it's just like, it's very like, they do it for all like the different like angles of the Jedi, and kind of it influences the way that they like the two who view it like a dance with wind and a dance with fire. That's a master and apprentice. That is clearly as to why they're master and apprentice, because they have a similar connection to the Force that way. And so it's just really smart, and it's blowing up the Force and the galaxy, just making it broader. It's checking all the boxes.
Dang, I love it. That's so nice.
Yeah, and that would be it in the world of Star Wars news. Any birthdays?
Only one birthday, and it's one that we should have mentioned last week. I missed it somehow. So a happy belated birthday on Thursday, January 14th to Carl Weathers, not only Grief Karga, but a one-time Star Wars director. So maybe he'll do some more of that going forward.
Probably.
Yep, could see that happening. Listen, we would love to hear your lists of your favorite Luke Skywalker moments or your favorite Leia moments. We're probably going to do some version of these lists again, but we're going to switch them up because we didn't get the opportunity to reverse. So going forward, we would be happy to share some of your thoughts. You can always email us your thoughts on the podcast or Star Wars in general, recorder66podcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet at recorder66. Please always consider rating and reviewing on your preferred podcast app. And until we are together again,
May the Force be with you.